I'm going to walk you through 4 common ways that hackers can break into your accounts, and then I'll show you a tool that I personally use that blocks about 92% of hacks, even if a criminal actually gets a hold of your password. So what I'm about to show you is incredibly straightforward and anyone can handle it. You don't need to be some kind of tech genius. It's simple enough that even my older relatives could use it without any trouble. So let's dive into those 4 methods that hackers use to steal your passwords. I know some of the tech experts out there might worry that I'm giving away secret criminals information that criminals could use, but actually the reality is that the bad guys already know about this. So what I'm doing is showing you how to defend yourself for your privacy. So your identity, your bank accounts, and your sensitive government ID numbers, so that they stay safe from these people. The first method is actually pretty old-fashioned. One of the most common ways criminals get into your accounts is by simply guessing. They start by doing research and performing recon on their targets. And in the world of intelligence gathering, before you ever approach a target, you conduct surveillance and do a deep dive until you know everything about that person. Nowadays, criminals can just scroll through your social media posts to see where you went to school or what your favorite hobbies are. It's much easier. They can do it remotely. So much easier now because everything's online. They'll use automated programs to cycle through the guesses, like your birth date and the word password, which is still way too common, or the name of your high school or college. This is exactly why you shouldn't use anything that can be guessed, right? Your password really should be just a random string of words and characters and numbers and symbols that have no relevance to your personal life or taste. You know, if you're really into muscle cars or action movies, your password shouldn't say, 1970 Camaro. Something super popular like that, or, Mission Impossible, whatever it is. That's exactly where the hacker is going to start looking. That's the primary way people find themselves getting hacked. And now moving on, the second way you're likely to get hacked is through harvesting. To explain what harvesting actually is, one common method involves someone putting a keylogger on your laptop or desktop. Maybe you have a disgruntled former heart partner, ex-partner who manages to get physical access to your device and installs this software. Well, once it's there, it records every single thing you type, which means they've now gathered every one of your passwords. However, if a criminal can't actually touch your computer, they'll usually turn to phishing emails instead. Now, we've all seen those ridiculous scams about distant relatives leaving you a fortune. But in reality, phishing is often much more subtle. It might look like an urgent notice from your bank or government tax agency. Nowadays, it just comes in all sorts of forms. There are scams everywhere, text scams, and very convincing, completely convincing looking emails, except only a couple things are off, right? Usually, sometimes they're very vague. They say you have to update your account or update your password or just update your personal information. And it looks pretty legitimate, but it doesn't make sense. It's like, what do you mean update my MSN account? I've never done that before. I can update the email maybe, and then you look at where it's from, the address, and it's a weird, it's full of weird characters. It doesn't have a proper official email address. Yeah, or it could be from a major shipping company. Lots of major companies these days, they're trying to mimic CRA or what else, like even like MSN and any kind of big company. And a lot of people fall for these tricks by clicking a link and entering their credentials, which allows the criminal to harvest that data and start digging through all your private accounts. It's always worth remembering that official government agencies aren't going to email you for sensitive information. Okay, they're going to send you a physical letter in the mail. And they usually don't text you either. If it's CRA or Service Canada about your password or something, they don't text you. The third method you need to watch out for is cracking. So what exactly does that mean? It's when hackers manage to break into a massive corporate database. And this can happen to a lot of retail chains, very big retail chains and credit bureaus and tech companies and it's been happening more over the last several years. And once they get inside, they walk away with millions of email addresses and passwords all at once, which gives them the power to do some serious damage. This is why you have to stay vigilant even if you're doing everything else correctly. You could be someone who never clicks on a suspicious link and has never had your physical device compromised. But you're still at risk because these big companies get breached so frequently. I've heard about a guy who had a couple surgeries, and after some of these surgeries, he eventually received a notification from the specialized medical provider stating that their database had been compromised and that his personal information was stolen or leaked or in some way. So it just goes to show that your data can be at risk in the places you will maybe never think about, but you've actually given, like a hospital or a surgery place. In this case, you've given them the personal information and it got lost somewhere. So having the right protection is vital, and it's really the last place you'd ever expect to have a problem, right? It wasn't a major bank or one of those big credit bureaus everyone hears about. Instead, it was just a medical provider. So you can put certain protections in place that I'll be explaining in a moment, even in cases like this. Now let's move on to the fourth method, which is known as spraying. You might be wondering what spraying actually involves, what it means. It basically starts when just one of your smaller accounts gets compromised. Maybe it's a login for a local school or a food delivery app, and that information ends up being sold on the dark web. And once those criminals have that single login, they start a process of spraying and praying by testing those same credentials against every other major service they can think of. They'll do a bit of digging and assume you probably have accounts with big retailers and streaming services or major banks. And because so many people reuse the same password across every site they visit, the hacker gets into minor accounts and suddenly has the keys to many other accounts. Your financial life and your shopping accounts, and this is exactly why using the same password everywhere is a really bad idea. Major mistake people make all the time. So those are the four primary ways criminals manage to hack into your life. And what's the solution to all of this? The best move is to transition toward passwordless protection, actually. There's a way to do this. There's a company called Loop8, and it acts as a personal privacy controller. You may not have heard of that company name, but it's exactly what you need to stay truly secure and avoid being hacked. Even if you're already using a popular password manager, most of those still rely on one master password, right? Something like LastPass. If the hacker manages to crack that single master password, then all of a sudden they have all of your passwords. They have access to your hundreds of logins, users, and everything. So there's massive vulnerability, whereas with Loop8, it's different because it's designed to be entirely controlled by you as the individual user. So your data isn't sitting in some giant corporate cloud waiting for a massive data breach like we've seen with big retailers or credit agencies. So nothing gets sent to Loop8's server or any external clouds, which means that your data stays entirely in your own computer, or one way or another with you. So this is a huge deal for personal safety because almost every other platform stores your information on a server that hackers can eventually reach. And we've seen that happen many times. It's also completely anonymous since they don't ask for your name or address or any personal details. All you need to get started is a name and a phone number, and you don't even have to use your primary number. You can easily set up a secondary email or use a virtual phone service instead of your personal cell phone. While it does offer cloud options, it's strictly your own personal cloud, and the whole system is completely passwordless. Now, I know people often wonder what passwordless actually means. How can they do this? But it's definitely the direction things are moving for a good reason, because most of us struggle to remember all of our logins, and there are people who go to the extremes, like printing out their entire list of passwords and leaving them lying around in the house because they can't remember. But it's a terrible idea, because if a contractor or anyone dishonest comes by, your entire digital life is right there on one piece of paper for them to just take a quick snap at with their smartphone. So passwordless security means your credentials only live on your actual device and can only be opened up using your own biometrics. It uses things like facial recognition to verify that it's you and nobody else. And since there's no master password to crack, there's no single point of failure that gives a hacker access to everything at once. So you can think of it like those high-tech vaults in spy movies where the only way to get inside is through an eyeball scan or a print scan. That's essentially the level of security we're talking about here. Now, the way you download this software is you do need to put it in your smartphone. And when it asks you for your face and fingerprint recognition, you definitely need to confirm this and go through that, because that's how this system stays secure. And then after you've allowed the biometrics, the system will send you a quick verification code and make sure that everything's set up correctly. You just enter the registration code and you're in. So when you're using this, when you start looking around the interface, you're going to find some really useful features. There's a digital storage option called My Safe, where you can lock up any sensitive files on your computer. This is especially great if you're traveling abroad and you want to make sure that your data is totally secure from anyone trying to sniff around your device. You'll also find a spot for secure notes, which is the perfect place to keep things like pins, PIN numbers and account numbers, or secret codes in a space that's fully encrypted and private. You're also going to find a feature called Privacy Mate, which is designed to notify you if any of your information turns up on the dark web. If someone tries to use your email address for anything suspicious, you'll get an alert so you can stay ahead of the situation. And another great option is the Tech Person feature, which is perfect for family members who aren't as comfortable with technology. So it lets them assign a trusted person to help manage their account. So even if they don't want to handle the technical side of things, you can assist them and receive alerts if their data is compromised. And this way you'll know exactly when something's wrong and can step in to help. Now, one of the best parts about signing up is that they actually provide 8 total licenses. This means you get your own and 7 additional ones to share with your friends or relatives. And so that's a major bonus for anyone who has a large family to look after. Now, since we've covered these 4 common ways that hackers can get into your accounts, and there are plenty of others out there, plenty of other ways, it's really important to take digital privacy seriously. So give the service a try, and of course, always make sure you're staying sharp and using good judgment whenever you're online.